everybody. Welcome back to the Gustavo Cup Fantasy Football Podcast. This is week 4, episode 4. I am your host, Sean Ballek, and our co-host,
Ian Siddiqi. You are very formal in week 4. I like the haircut. I like the clean face. Very, very formal, about business. I'm sure that you're probably still selling high off of I know you're out of town for the weekend. So yeah, week 4. Here we go.
Let's do it. Let's jump right into it. We got a lot to cover today. First things first, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking water in my Mr. Mug.
You got the Mr. Mug this time, huh?
Mr. Mug this time. It's a little bit earlier here than it is there. Just finished work, took off the collared shirt, threw on the tank top, and ready to rock and roll. What are you drinking?
I am drinking Yingling.
That looks delicious.
It is delicious. I like it.
Well, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So we had some really good matchups this week. What are some that you kind of were drawn to?
So, I mean, Mark and Ralph.
Yeah.
Mark and Ralph is what I was drawn to. Mitchloff sent a message on Monday night saying how interesting it was getting, and ended 143.58 for Ralph to 142.9 for Mark. Just a rough loss for Mark. 19 points from Ralph's kicker on Monday Night Football.
Insane.
And then Ralph also got 32 from his defense. And wow, like, what else can you say?
Yeah, it's those positions that tend to change throughout the year at kicker and defense. They can pay dividends. They can win week in and week out. That's why we see people playing and making adjustments to those two positions on a weekly basis, because it's really a matchup based position, right? And Buffalo did work, as you said, on Sunday, and then we saw on Monday night Cincinnati took care of business against the Rams, and their kicker paid dividends. So good pickup from Ralphie there. I hate the kickers. I understand the reason why. So let's just do a quick recap of all the matchups. I had my matchup against Jeremy, didn't really go my way. And we had you against Bizzo's team, ran by Mark, and obviously he put up the top points this week against you. Mishloff took care of business against Kyle. Kyle's been at the bottom of the pack, just 2 hard losses over the past couple of weeks, and Mishloff took care of business. And then we see Evan pulling up the rear, 12th place, and Wiggins 3-0 to start the year out. We just talked about Mark and Ralphie. Previously, those are 2 winless teams going against each other. Krim Dutch Gouda pulled out the W. And then Mark and Mike, this was my matchup that I was really looking forward to last week. And as predicted, Mike pulled off the W. I think a lot of really good matchups. I think teams are coming into their own this time of year. What are your thoughts?
We're starting to see who's actually going to be players this season, and who are going to be the duds, and who are going to be the busts, and those kind of things. So we're kind of seeing all that shake out, and it's been nice to watch. Yeah, that Nick and Mike matchup was good. Mike's team, man, every week somebody just goes nuts. Keenan Allen and Tua again this week, and just 137? Is that what he put up this week?
137.
Jeez, man.
What about the freaking
he just keeps
Dolphins?
Putting up those giant numbers, man.
70 points for the Dolphins. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's embarrassing for Denver to give up 70 points.
Yeah, we're both in our 30s, and a team has never put up that many points during our lifetime. So
that's
we
true.
definitely
I've never seen it before.
Never seen it before. Yeah, and and to do it against a Denver team that's traditionally had stout defenses. Yeah, it's, kudos to Miami. They got something special down there.
Yes, that they do. Yeah, that they do. Mike McDaniel's got them going.
Absolutely. Yeah, so let's hop into our waiver wire. Let's look at some transactions for the week.
Yeah, the big spender was you for Joshua Palmer. Makes sense with that Mike Williams injury. And then the next closest bid was Mishloff at 13, and then Ralph at 5.
I wish I could
The
tell you how many times I adjusted my offer because it started low, right? It started at about $9. And I was just like, that's not going to get the job done. And then I went to $19 and I was like, that's going to do it. And then maybe 20 minutes before midnight, I was like, I need Palmer. Like I need with the Mike Williams going down. So I upped it up to my Jordan number. And I mean, I overspent obviously, but it was one of those situations where I was like, I need him on the squad.
Yeah, I get it, man. I looked at your receiver room earlier when I was kind of prepping for this, and you're pretty shallow. You've been decimated, but you're piecing it together the best you can. So we'll see how that works out for you. And then the other transactions we had, I got CJ Stroud for $13, and the next closest bid was you for 0. So I overspent quite a bit on that one. I did the same thing as you with that. I had him at like $6 or $7, and I was like, you know what? I want to take my shot on him.
Yep.
If he turns out to be good, then it's worth the extra fab.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
I also went out and grabbed Pittsburgh's defense for $6, and I think Mark was the next closest bid at $0. The other transactions with no other bidders. I spent $7 on Justin Fields, and then Jeremy spent $3 on Marvin Mims. You spent $3 on Cincinnati, and I think that's the only bids that people spent $5 on. Yeah, Justin Fields, man. I actually tried to trade Kyle for him, and he rejected it and then dropped him mid-game. So I thought that was kind of funny. And then I'll take the shot. Hopefully they start letting him run and he can be viable for fantasy.
Yeah, so league standings thus far, Mike at the top, put up the most points. Yeah, he's the only person that's put up 400 plus points in the league. It's not even so much that he's had bad matchups, but this is what I'm most interested in and most impressed by. 0 spent on the waiver budget. That means that his team is healthy. He hasn't had the need to go out there, spend a lot of money. Don't fix what's not broken. I feel you, buddy.
I think that's a mistake. You should always be trying to improve. Sure, his team's been great so far. His team's looked good, and he hasn't needed to go out and get anybody. But you never know; injuries happen, as you experienced last week. So you should always be trying to improve. You should always be trying to get depth and have people that you can fill in if something happens. And it's not spending fab is not going to get you there.
Yeah, understandable. It's a great point. What else?
Jeremy and Steven, 2 people. They're both undefeated, and I don't think I picked either one of them in a matchup this week in a pick'em this season. Oh no, I picked Steven last week, but these 2 guys have been crushing me in the pick'em. And then we just got the 2 people at 2 and 1, Bizzo and Schloff, and then a whole slew of people at 1 and 2 and 0 and 3. So I mean, right now I'm currently in a playoff spot at 1 and 2. So it's a long season, but the guys at the top have been dominating.
Yeah, absolutely. We tend to see that mound build in the middle in our league, right? There's a lot of guys that, because it is a competitive league, there's a lot of guys that float right above, right below 500 throughout the year. And then there tends to be this push towards the playoffs where you see some guys going runs towards the later half of the season. And I mean, I can fully anticipate that occurring again. One thing that I do want to point out is points against, right? So I know that Wiggins is 3-0, having a great year. We also got to look at that, put a little asterisk there because only 220 points scored against him. compared to only putting up 309. When we look at your team, was put up 335, but that number against you, right? You're coming up against some stiff competition. So
Yeah,
just
and you look at Mark's team down there, who's had 431 scored against them, just brutal.
Yeah, just brutal, right? So it's tough, it's tough, and matchups do play a part, as we know.
Yep. So yeah, glad we got to take a look at the standings. And then in the pick'em this week, you went 2-4. Your two W's were Schloff over Kyle and Mike over Nick. And I went 1-5, and my win was Steven over Evan. So let's see if we can improve on these. The 2-4 and 1-5 is not
Yeah, it's
acceptable.
horrible. Yeah, horrible. As a gambling man, that is not good.
Yeah. So let's jump into next week's matchup, so we can try to make this a shorter podcast than the hour-long episodes that we've been having.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at my matchup. I'm going against Mr. Mark Bridges himself, 0-3, but that is not a true indication or a reflection of how good his team actually is. He has probably top 2 or 3 quarterback in Herbert when it comes to fantasy points. Jefferson's went off last week. He's had a slow start to the year for his standards, but absolutely picking up pace now. Just a great team all around. Some question marks at the running or at the running back position, and then he has a great tight end in Laporta, who went off last week as well. I think that despite his record, Mark has a great team. It's going to be a tough matchup for me. Really rebuilding this wide receiving core. Traded away T. Higgins, injury to Mike Williams, a lot of question marks. However, a lot of potential as well on the bench. It's going to be a sit down, come into Jesus, trying to figure out who is ready to ball out this week, and then putting the right people in position. Obviously, Dell, great week last year, picking up Palmer with the absence of Mike Williams now. I'm not worried about my running backs, right? Or my tight end. That's going to stay put probably for the rest of the year. But there's a lot of question marks everywhere else across the board.
Yeah. I mean, question mark at quarterback. Russ has been really, I think he's had one good game and a couple pretty down games. So I'll be interested to see who you start there, Russ, or if Anthony Richardson plays, and see if you throw him in there in the lineup. And then your wide receiver room, and we talked about it earlier. It's been decimated. You traded T. Higgins, Mike Williams got hurt, and then just a rough time for you there. Tank Dell was a great pickup. He looked really good last week, and has a good matchup this week. So I'll look forward to watching him. Joshua Palmer, I'm not sure about. It kind of worries me that they have a first-round pick who's sitting behind him as the number 2 receiver. And he's had opportunities before and just didn't come through. So that concerns me a little bit about him. And then you got Josh Reynolds and Terry McLaurin on the bench, and are you just waiting to see have one of them have a good game, or
I'm just I'm gonna have to plug and play. McLaurin, savvy veteran, may get the start this week because that Philadelphia run defense is so great. I think that Washington is going to have no choice but to go to the air. And when they go to the air, McLaurin is the number 1 receiver in Washington still.
I'm interested in this, see what you do with Terry McLaurin and with Josh Reynolds. And then I think you had somebody else on your bench too, right? Another receiver out down there. Addison. And then Addison also looks good, rookie, and it has been having good games. So I'm interested to see where you go from there. And then on Mark's side, he's got Herbert, Jefferson, and Olave, who have just been on fire this season. But then on the flip side, he's got Gibbs, who hasn't hit his projections once this season. So it's hopefully Gibbs can get it together for him. And then otherwise, I mean, what does Mark do at running back if Gibbs can't get it together? It's getting kind of desperate for him in there. He's got Khalil Herbert, Roshan, and Breida, and Charbonnet on the bench. So he's got 4 running backs on the bench, and hopefully one of those guys can step up for him and get him back into this season.
Yeah, we shall see how it goes. Next matchup that we're looking at, I believe, is.
Oh, who are you picking? Picking
Oh,
yourself?
I'm gonna pick myself in that one.
Yeah, I am going to pick. I'm gonna pick you as. I'm gonna pick Mark. I'm
That's
gonna
fair. That's fair.
go
Mark's
against you
team
this
looks
time.
good. Mark's team looks good. So we got you facing up against Nick. Nick with that big win last week.
Big
Still took
loss
another,
last week.
or excuse me, a big win 2 weeks ago. Big loss last week. It's been a struggle. It's been a struggle for Nick this year, starting out. Um, but this matchup is really interesting, right? We got Diggs, Adams, love your receiving core. Some question marks at the running back position. Glad that you got Ford in there. We'll see how that pays out. Lamar Jackson, it's been very average this year, right? Even against, just the overall how the Ravens have been playing despite their record. A lot of question marks about that team and Lamar Jackson leading it. We love Nick's receiving core, Lamb, Samuel. It's going to be a good matchup. Um, Interested to see that Chicago Denver game actually, to see if Jay Fields actually turns it around, or if they're gonna let him start running. There's a lot of action in this matchup, so I'm gonna be excited to see how it plays out. I'm gonna actually pick you this week. I like the Fields play.
Yeah. Uh, Otherwise, what am I doing? Like at quarterback, I had Matt Stafford last week, who was a dud. And then I drafted Daniel Jones, who good thing I didn't play him last week, even though it didn't work out for me, he was even worse than Stafford. So Kyle dropped Fields. I jumped on it, took the shot at that running quarterback, and he's playing Denver, has given up, who just gave up 50-point performances to two running backs last week. I don't know how you do
Has
that in the
that ever
same week,
happened?
but
Has that ever happened
I
in
no,
fantasy?
I don't.
Two
Not
running
that I know
backs,
of.
yeah, two running backs on the same team. Monster put up what, 42,
I think he put up 49,
49, and
and
then
then Achan put up 51.
insane. Yeah, insane.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. But that Denver defense, I don't see them getting it together in 1 week. And Fields can run, so hopefully he runs. I got that receiving core with Diggs and Adams and Amari Cooper, who is, I think, being overlooked down there. And then similar to you at receiver, I'm just kind of piecing together my running backs. I went zero RB this year, and then had David Montgomery and Cam Akers. Both Montgomery got hurt, and Akers is just Cam Akers. And yeah, so we'll see how this goes. I'm pretty confident this week. I'm liking some of my matchups. Nick's got some good ones as well, but he's got some question marks. He's got Debo and Saquon, or Debo questionable. I don't know what his injury was. He's got Puka questionable. Um, and then we'll see if Cook and Swift and Ingram can continue playing well, and we'll see if CD and Puka can bounce back. But I'm hoping not this week.
And who are you
And
picking?
I'm gonna pick myself. I don't pick against myself.
Yeah, it's tough to, I mean, I don't either, so never have, never will.
No, I'm not gonna start that now.
All right, next matchup we have Evan against Sloth. I don't think these are final set lineups. Just looking through them and looking at the total for each team. I think that St. Brown is clear cut, just a star. I think it's very obvious that he's the number one receiver in Detroit. I think he's going to continue to have big games. There's a lot of question marks around Lawrence and Ridley at that quarterback and WR1 position for Sloth. It's make or break, right? If the Jags succeed, Sloth will succeed. If the Jags have an off week like they did last week against a Houston defense that's very stingy, then Mishlov's team is also going to suffer. Number one running back in the league this year with Mostert, just having big week after week. Obviously, we just talked about it. 41 last week, 25 the
Oh, it
week
was
before.
41.
Yeah, guys, but I mean, the guy has 6 touchdowns on the year thus far, just balling out. A little disappointed in Kate Williams on Monday night, but still like him in that Rams offense. I think that he's going to have his opportunities to make some stuff happen. So overall, yeah, really like Schloff's team. Obviously Evan has struggled a little bit, 0-3, bottom of the pack. Pulled off that trade with Allen and Higgins last week between me and him. And unfortunately, they underperformed as well as the majority of his team. I just don't see Evan turning it around with this team. So I'm going to go with Schloff this week.
Yeah, I don't see it either. He's gonna have to make some try to buy low on some guys, and hopefully they turn it around. That's the only way I see him coming back from this. Or he's gonna have to be active on that waiver wire and pick up some people.
Yeah.
Like you said, Schloff has Lawrence and Ridley, and that Jags offense has been struggling. And his running backs do look really good with Mostert and Zach Moss and
And he's
Kyron
got
Williams.
Stevenson on the bench.
But they all have really tough matchups this week, so that's going to be something to watch out for. And then Amon-Ra has a tough matchup as well. So I think I don't know if it'll be as easy as we're kind of making it out to be, but I still think Schloff his team will pull it off. Evan, he doesn't have any running backs. I don't know how he's going to get those. It's really tough to trade for running backs. And then he's got Darnell Mooney in the starting lineup, and that guy's put up a goose 2 weeks in a row. So I don't know what's going on there either, but hopefully he can find some players out there on the waivers, make some creative trades happen, and get his team back up to competitive. I'm going to pick Schloff though.
Gotcha. So if you were in Schloff's shoes, do you dare start Adrian and Mostert in your lineup this week?
No, I wouldn't.
But I mean,
if I'm Schloff, I'm probably how many receivers how many running backs does he have? One.
He's got a lot. He's got
He's got 5. Yeah, I'm probably playing who he's got in there. Zach Moss has been really good and probably only has a few weeks left. Maybe you look to move him. Just because you don't know what's going to happen with Jonathan Taylor. And then Mostert and Kyron Williams have been good. The Rams lost 2 offensive linemen on Monday night, so that was part of the issue with Williams, is that it was just didn't have anywhere to. He wasn't running behind a full offensive line, so they had 2 backups in there. Now that the backups are practicing with the first teams and they're used to them, they'll be a little bit better. So I would look for him to have a better game against Indy.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I know we've seen it before where people have ran 2 receivers on the same team. But yeah, I've never seen it where someone would run 2 running backs on the same team in one lineup. But if he did it last week, they combined would have been 93 points. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. Yeah, maybe not this week against Buffalo.
Denver.
Yeah, maybe not this week against Buffalo, but I mean, if they come across another weak front.
I'm holding Achane because Mostert has that history of injuries. So I would be holding on to Achane and looking to plug him in if he gets a start.
That sounds like a plan. All right, next matchup we have Jeremy versus Kyle. Yeah, I really like Jeremy's team. Obviously, he started the year 3-0, but it is off a very, very well-built team. Starting with Hill, lead scorer on his team. Obviously, lead wide receiver in the league right now in terms of fantasy points, and he has some good guys at running back as well with White and Mixon, guys that don't split a lot of times for their respective backfields. I think overall, and then he's got Thielen, who's making a resurgence in Carolina as the number 1 receiver down there. He's catching everything out of the slot, 5 and in, 10 and out. He's been doing it. I think that going against Kyle's team, really a letdown this year. Waddle has yet to be seen on a Miami team that's scoring a bunch of points. He seems to still be absent. I like Goff in Detroit. Obviously, they started the year with that big win over the Chiefs, and he's kept it rolling. You know, they've had a couple of hiccups here and there, but for the most part, I see that team just can continually get better. I'm going to go with Jeremy's team this week.
Yeah. Jeremy's got some interesting decisions to make. Is he going to start Geno or Jordan Love this week? We made a comment about it a couple weeks ago, and he went with Geno over Jordan Love, and it didn't matter, but it was the wrong decision when you look at it. He's also got some tough running back matchups this week. I think one of his running backs is going against Tennessee, who doesn't give up very much on the ground. And I forget, Rashad White he's going against New Orleans, who's also a really good running defense and just defense in general. And Rashad White, yeah, he has the role there, but he hasn't looked great. He's had one good game and two kind of just meh games. As you mentioned, Hill, Metcalf, those guys are studs. You're rolling them out every week. And then Adam Thielen has looked really good this season.
Really good.
He had a big game last week, and then he's got a revenge game against Minnesota this week. So that's exciting. And then on Kyle's side, he's got Goff starting it out on Thursday night in Green Bay. Nico Collins has a good matchup against Pittsburgh. You mentioned Waddle. He was out last week with a concussion, and I think he's still in the concussion protocol from what there you go. Yep, still in the concussion protocol as of Monday. So no news on that. And so does he start Dalvin Cook or Michael Thomas or DJ Moore if Waddle doesn't go? I don't know what he does. And then the rest of his team has bad matchups. Etienne, Edwards, and Njoku, Kirk, all of them don't have great matchups. And then hopefully for Kyle, Austin Eckler can come back, because that I think is what makes the difference here. If Austin Eckler comes back and plays against the Raiders, I think Kyle's got a really good shot. But if Eckler's out, you got to go with Jeremy. And as of right now, I'm assuming Eckler's going to be out, so I'm going to go with Jeremy.
Next matchup, we got Ralphie versus Bizzo's team.
So, Ralph versus Bizzo.
Yeah, so right, Ralph with his first win last week. Behind a strong performance from Chase and Evans. I know, I faced that team. Sorry, have not played him yet.
You have not played him yet.
Yeah, I played Chase in my other league, and like Monday night, I was up and Chase just fucking kept busting my ass. So it was like, I'm like watching the game, I'm like, fuck, and I just slowly saw the other team pull up, pass me up, all on the fucking back of Chase. But yeah. So yeah, really interesting matchup this week. We saw Juice get his first win last week behind Chase, Evans, and a great performance from Hurts on Sunday evening. First win. Now he's got Marky Mark with Bizzo's team, and they've actually had a really, really good year. Put up the most points on you last week. Cousins, obviously the number one QB in fantasy land so far this year. AJ Brown finally had a legitimate game. Hurts was looking for him early on. We saw him all over the field. Brown with his first game. Kelsey making a statement, coming back in front of T Swift, got the TD. Good for him. And then Walker against the defense he played last week, just a really weak front line. He was able to get the ball rolling as well. So really interesting matchup this week. I'm going to have to go. It's tough, but I'm going to have to go with Juice. I think that his team's hitting its stride. So yeah, we're going to go with Juice.
You're going with Juice. All right. Yeah. And there's a lot to go through on this one. Mike Evans on fire. The guy that might be the steal of the draft when we look back on it at the end of the season. He's just been terrific. And he's had a few errors he could have been even better in multiple games. He's had a few mistakes that cost him some points, but the numbers that he's putting up, Ralph's got to be happy with that. James Conner looks really strong, which really surprises me. Arizona, not as bad as we thought they were going to be. They came out and put a whooping on Dallas last week. So that's something that Ralph's got going for him too. Kamara coming off of the suspension, and Ralph's throwing him right in there. So that's a lot of stuff to watch. Another thing I would be keeping an eye out, Josh Jacobs hasn't broken double digits yet this season. So I'd be watching out for that. Yeah, he's just been not there, even against Denver, who's just not good on that stopping running backs. He couldn't put a decent game together. And then, as you mentioned, Bizzle's got Cousins, who's on fire, and either number one or two quarterback this season. Kenneth Walker is heating up and crushed me last week. Put up nearly 30 against me last week. AJ Brown had a big game. Miles Sanders looks good, but he's questionable. I think he was questionable last week, so I would look for him to play. And he's looked good. He's getting targets. It's pretty impressive. You already touched on T Swift putting Kelsey on the map. Yeah,
It's like,
I'm gonna go with Mark here. I think, or with Bizzo here. I think his team is good. They just keep performing, and until some of these guys aren't on fire, I'm gonna go with him. Oh, I forgot he's got Brandon Ayuk on the bench. If Ayuk plays, I would look for him to get him in there as well.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup. I don't know about you, but like my entire social media feed is just full of T Swift and Kelsey news. It seems like
Yeah, pretty funny, right?
it's pretty funny, dude. The prank calls where like the wives or girlfriends are like, saying, "Oh yeah, this Travis Kelsey guy, never heard of him, but it looks like Taylor Swift's dating him. So good for her putting him on the map." And the fucking husbands are just like freaking out, like this guy's been around, he's Super Bowl champions. Like, how disrespectful can you be? It's pretty
He's
funny.
been the best tight end for like 5 years in a row.
Exactly. Like, but yeah. So last matchup to look at: two unbeaten teams. Right after next week, there will only be either one or two unbeaten teams, depending on who wins this matchup. And just, two of the top performing quarterbacks, with Mahomes and Tua going at it. And just both of these teams are just stacked and look good. Keelan Allen, clear cut favorite receiver in Chargers land. With Mike Williams going down, they're gonna depend on Allen even more. Pittman, surprisingly, just having a hell of a year, despite everything that's going on with Jonathan Taylor. And then D. Henry, you can never count out King Henry. And I think a lot of question marks on Steven's team revolve around that running back room, with B. Hall just not really living up to what they thought he was going to be thus far this season. Also Pierce. So it's going to be a good matchup, but I'm going to go with Mike to get the W here.
Yeah, Mike's team is just outstanding. And he's dealing with a lot of issues on his team. As you mentioned, Breece Hall. I don't put that on Breece Hall. I put that on Zach Wilson. You can just stack the box against them, and he's going up against 8 and 9 defenders in the box because he has a quarterback that can't throw a football. So it's going to be tough for Breece Hall all season long. Hope the guy is super athletic and super talented, so hopefully he can still put up some big games for Steven. I wouldn't look for it this week. The Chiefs are good on defense. I'm looking at for Steven's team, I'm looking at Mahomes on Sunday night against the Jets. I think that could be a big game there. That guy always performs in the spotlight. And so I would be looking at that. Lockett against the Giants on Monday night could help Steven come back. The Giants haven't been great. They've been giving up points to everybody. Devontae Smith, I would expect him to have a bounce back game against Washington. And then his other guys, they all have mid-level matchups. Pierce, Pitts, Madison, they all have mid-level matchups. So I expect one or two of them to hit, but I wouldn't expect all of them to hit. Kyle Pitts is probably the one that scares me the most because that team just doesn't throw the ball. And then on Mike's side, he's got Tua and Derrick Henry with tough matchups. Cincinnati looks good against running backs. And Tua, if you go click on him and show his game log, he's had those two big games, but when he faced one tough pass defense, he didn't show up. So I would be watching out for that. That's a tough matchup against Buffalo in Buffalo. So if he doesn't show up, then that puts that puts Steven right in this matchup. Keenan Allen has been unbelievable. The guy just keeps putting up massive games.
And he's
And
a
then
great singer. Did you know that?
I did not know that. I did
Absolutely,
not know that he
voice
was
of
a
an
great
angel.
singer.
He was on
Okay.
he was on the Masked Singer.
This one's going to come down to injury
Google it.
again for me. If Aaron Jones plays tomorrow night, I think Mike takes it. If he doesn't play tomorrow night, I'm gonna yeah, I'm I'm still gonna go with Mike. Either way, I'm going with Mike on this one. His team's they're just playing too well.
Yeah.
And until one of them doesn't put up a monster game, or until they show me something else, I'm probably gonna keep going with Mike.
That's a good call. That's a good call. Well, yeah. So those are our matchups for the week. A lot of stuff to look forward to. What are you looking forward to this week?
This week, I am looking forward to. I'm hoping I can get out on Saturday and go to the UT game. They got Kansas coming into town, so they got a ranked opponent coming into town, and I'm hoping I can get some tickets to that. It'll be my first game of the season attending, and I want to get to one before. If they keep winning, the tickets are just going to be outrageous.
They're going to keep going up.
The season.
Exactly.
So I'm trying to get to one before they become unreasonable. So probably Saturday is when going to be my game that I go to.
Trigger on it. Nice.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. So
what about you?
We're on baby watch over here. So I'm not going to be doing much. Just kind of waiting around. Looks like Friday is going to be my last day at work till I take my leave.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah, so it's coming. It's definitely coming. But yeah, that's what I'm doing this week, and watching football.
Oh yeah, I'm watching football. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to this game tomorrow night too. It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
Lions Packers is always good.
How do you feel about this double Monday night bullshit?
I don't mind it. I'm always watching double games. And at least they're putting a trash game on with sometimes a decent game. The problem that I've been having is most of the Monday night games this season haven't been good.
Yeah, they haven't been. They have not been good.
So they're giving us the option of watching a mediocre game or a trash game. And it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll watch this mediocre game. Unless I have a fantasy player in there, then I'll switch over to that one. But they've been bad games.
Yeah. Well, the Monday night schedule may be changing soon. I don't know if you saw, but the writer's strike officially ended yesterday. So, and that was the reason why they were doing double Monday night. They were looking for another time spot to fill because there's no new TV. But now that the writers are back, that may be changing soon.
Okay, well, we only got one Monday night game this week, so that's good.
That is good. All right, brother. Well, it was great as always. Thanks again for tuning in to episode 4.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, gentlemen. Good luck this week.
Good luck.